now that we have our steak, it's been a little over 15 minutes. I'm going to systematically set things up. First of all, let's test out what we have done yesterday and make sure that the software on the Arduino still works. There is a set of colors, some things that happen here, which starts with as it connects to the internet, the light will flicker until it goes solid, and that indicates that it is connected to the internet. Let's see, which one is this screen connected to? Okay. So it's connected to this one. Good. Okay. So we're going to open a command prompt. It said to run it in administration mode. I don't know why exactly that is, but I have one that's an administrator command prompt and the other one that is just a regular command prompt. Both of these are going to be set up in two corners, one in the top, the other one in the bottom. And basically the point of this is for the sending and receiving of information between the device. So I can manually do that from the computer, and then the next step will be to be able to do that from within the software, that it sends it through the internet of the software on a device, which is a separate device, to this window, and then it'll set it on the IoT device itself. Steak is pretty good. Since this is lunchtime, I'm gonna set the Pomodoro after lunch. In the meantime, we can just kind of speculate, think on things, just kind of not do much rigorous work, but just more creative expression. There was one video in particular that helped me with this. But I could also look through. Let's try a different approach. We've got the administrator. We're gonna open it up, and it looks a lot like CD, which means, I don't know, display, circuit display. I don't know. Comma C double dots backslash program files backslash Mosquito, comma, that'll open up the directory. Command directory, I don't know. Anyway, so now we're in Mosquito. And then we gotta figure out how do we open, Mosquito underscore submit. And then this will be the host. If I was correct, it would be broker.hivemq.com. com. And then we would use the actual topic, ESP32 /LD/controller. That was the name of it. Now we are receiving. Now we can go down to the next command prompt. And this one will be cd this c double dots /program files Mosquito, and now we're in Mosquito. Now we want Mosquito underscore publish, and this one we want to do okay, yes, it is host. We use the host broker.hivemq.com. Then we use the topic. Topic is ESP32. We use /LAD/controller. And then we want to send the message, so we are going to do /message. And then we're going to do comma toggle, because that one is just changes the state of the light. Okay, I just changed the state of the light. I'm waiting on it to send through. Oh, I actually have oh, that's funny. Okay, so instead of having slashes, I had question marks, so it didn't work. I'm surprised that it didn't show any errors or anything. hivemq.com. I'm pretty sure, yep. ESP32/LAD/controller toggle. Okay, there we go. We have a toggle command sent through one and sent to the other. I don't know. Whatever. What's going on? Let's use the same one. But instead of toggle, we're going to switch it to off. Because I want to see the light turn off. It's staying on. So once we get it off, then we move on to the next part. Oh, I love these kind of things. How do I do this thing? I don't know. Okay, let's think back to the last time we did it. Okay, can we use this as kind of a reward bait? Ooh, food. I really want to eat another piece of steak. Okay, fill out the things. This is accurate. This is proper. Okay, cool. Reward yourself with steak. Very fun time. Okay, so the device itself has the LED on, and it is not changing state, even though I have hit the off button, effectively turning it off. So, best thing to try here, disconnect, reconnect. Flashing, not on, double tap, then it's on. Okay, so it's on. Let's send the same code, but it's toggle. I think toggle has been sent. But nothing is relayed. I need to look through. What the heck? My teeth. You gotta be that way, T. Okay. Broker.hivemq.com. Let's just cross-reference these things. Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay, so I have to change from controller to control. That's it. Boom. Just toggled it off. Name issue. Okay. So with the other thing here, we need to actually open up this thing again. What if we don't run it as administrator? What if we just run it as normal? And we just go like this, like this. What else? Oh yeah. Okay, and then we go. Okay. Okay, it shows the state is on, right? So we're gonna just paste that one in there. So we just sent it toggle, and we have toggle. Toggle it back. Boom, on. Cool. That is a rewardable moment. Just right through the bony. Nice and fatty part right here. Oh, this is a good piece. Oh my goodness, look at that fat. Oh, delicious. How? Okay. All of that works. Cool. Okay. Now. Good. We could work on the what are we trying to build here? Should I build it out right now? Maybe. Let's just see what we can build, I guess. We got a screen, which is UI element. We will use a what will we use? Screen cube. Okay. We need an event system. And what else we got? Is it main camera? Event system. There's a client. So that would be the empty, I would assume. And then we need MQTT demo. I don't think we need that one. We got the screen, which is a canvas. Is it? Yeah, sure. Call this screen. Within it we have a cube. And within the cube we have a within the cube we have a canvas. Let's just delete this and start over. We'll create an empty, call it screen. We'll create a cube, call it cube, which is the parameters of the thing itself. We're going to create a UI element. We're going to call it canvas because that's what it is. And then we just basically add the cube to the screen, add the canvas to the screen. Right? That's how it works? Yeah. And then the canvas holds the buttons, or the interactables, or whatever that they are.
access MQTT as a client from Unity, so all what you have to do is drag and drop the prefab to your scene. Here we set the host and the port. Optionally, you can decide if you want to use WebSocket or not. If you want to have encryption, you just can use this TLS checkbox. You can also define if you want to allow.
So what if we just add, what if we added another scene? Let's just play it. Let's prepare our little reward here, steak. And then let's see. So it's ready. Let's change the broker address to broker.hive.mq.com. There's no like thing here to. Okay, so this works apparently. But how do we send the button? Broker address. Okay, but we don't have it connected to a topic. Okay, here we are. Here we are. We need an MQ client. We have this right here. We can just drag and drop this into there. MT can add script behavior. The script needs to derive from mono behavior. Cool. Okay, now we have the actual one. We're gonna open it up. We're gonna check it out. Okay, so all of this basically just tells me that it works, but it doesn't tell me that it will be connected to a topic.
Untrusted certificates. Optionally, you can set a username and password. There's also an automatic reconnect. If the connection to MQ
Okay, I think I saw subscribe topics. There we are. Subscribe topics. Client behavior. Add a he must have made this script himself. This is the client. Client. Okay, good. Settings. Okay. License. Okay. Network channel. Session. Session. Okay, it doesn't say anything about it. Okay. Client ID. Okay, this doesn't really. Broker session. This one should be it then. We're just gonna open up the test one. Let's look through it. Publish. Okay. Connected to broker report. Okay. I don't see it connecting to a subscribe topics. Okay. Cool. So this works. We're just going to add the ability to basically subscribe to a thing. Topic. When we figure that one out. Okay. So, how do I make this public? Public. Public. How do I do that? Public. I think I would call it public void. Public object. Text. Save. Go back into the script. Let's see what it's changed to. I don't see anything. I don't see anything. Just got topics. String topic. If client is not null, client is disconnected. Scratch topic. Like void public, public int, public transform. I don't know. I don't know how to ask the question that I'm looking to ask. We're going to pause this for a second. We're going to go to a tutorial. Unity tutorial.
Hi, my name's Mark.
I think what we're going to do is we will take remove that, we will save it, we'll close this, and then we're going to save this in a minute here. We're just going to watch the new tutorial.
For years, I've wanted to make my very own video games using software like... Hi, my name's Mark. For years, I've wanted to make my very own video games using software like Unity. Unity is the powerful game engine behind titles like Cuphead, Neon White, Tunic, Outer Wilds, Hearthstone, Firewatch, and even the Pokemon Diamond remake. But I've always found that lengthy, multi-part, meandering tutorials just send me to sleep. I can't learn by watching someone else. I have to get hands-on and figure things out for myself. And so last year, I developed a solution that actually works. It's a 3-step technique where you, 1, just learn the absolute basics of Unity, then 2, cement those lessons with simple exercises, and then 3, figure out the rest as you go along. And it totally worked. In the space of about a year, I went from ripping off iPhone games to working on my very own puzzle platformer about magnets. And I released an interactive video essay that's had over 100,000 plays. But wait, I hear you say, how do you do step 1? How do you learn the basics when the software is so complicated to figure out? Well, for me, it was about writing down a list of things I would need to know regardless of what game I was going to make. Things like how to make a character appear and move them around the screen, how to make stuff spawn in and then delete it again later, how to have collisions and game over and animations and sound effects. Then I learnt all that by hunting through lengthy tutorials, reading the Unity docs, googling esoteric words, and doing a lot of trial and error. And so the whole point of this video is to save you that hassle. This video is the tutorial I wish I had when I was learning Unity. So in the next 40 minutes, we're going to use the engine to make Flappy Bird. Not because we want to make Flappy Bird, but because in order to remake this addictive iPhone game, we'll need to learn basically everything I just listed, from spawning objects to getting game overs. This tutorial will cover every step of the way, from downloading Unity to understanding the UI, to writing your very first line of programming code, to building a game that you can share with your friends. And then, when the tutorial is over, I'll share some concrete next steps that you can take in order to continue learning the rest by yourself. Sound good? Then let's get started. Okay, let's start by getting Unity from the website. Download and install the Unity Hub. And then you'll need to make a free account to actually use it. Once that's done, you'll be asked to install the Unity editor. I'm using version 2021.3 for this tutorial if you're watching a million years in the future and wondering why things are different. Let's pretend I have fast internet. We're not quite done yet. Under Installs, hit the cog icon on the Unity editor and pick Modules. You'll see that Microsoft Visual Studio has been ticked. This is the software we'll use to write programming code. So hit Continue and install Visual Studio. On this screen, scroll down and tick Game Development with Unity and untick Unity Hub because we already have it. We don't need to make an account to use Visual Studio, so skip that and don't bother loading it, we'll open it later. Okay, that's all done now. So in Unity Hub, pick New Project, choose All Templates and use 2D Core. This is an empty project with a few configurations to make it suitable for 2D games. Give your project a name, hit Create, and let's get game making. In step 1, we're going to become familiar with the default Unity user interface, and as we explore the different panels, we'll make the bird appear on screen. Right, so this is the default screen layout for Unity, and it's split into 4 panels. First of all, down here is the Project panel. This will contain everything that is in our game, like sprites, sound effects, scripts, tiles, fonts, and so on. Some of this stuff will be made in Unity as we go along, but we can also just drag and drop files from elsewhere on our computer. Like, I've made some sprites for the bird and the pipe in Photoshop, and I'm going to import them into my project like so. I'd recommend you make your own, that's always more fun, but if you have zero artistic ability, then check the description for these assets. The next panel is the hierarchy. This contains all of the stuff that's in the current scene, which in most games will be a level. We're going to start by making the bird, so right-click and choose Create Empty. This has made an empty game object. So, what's that? Well, a game object is essentially an invisible container. It has a position in space, a rotation, and a scale. Then you can fill that container with components to add extra features. For example, if we add a sprite renderer component, we can slap the bird image onto the game object. Absolutely everything in our level will be a game object with components. The bird, the pipes, even the user interface, and the camera. All of this magic happens in the third panel, the Inspector, which is for messing with game objects. So once we've selected our new empty game object, we can put a name in the top field, let's call it Bird, and we can see and change the game object's position, rotation, and scale under Transform. We can now press Add Component, pick Rendering, and pick Sprite Renderer. To make this work, we need to fill in the sprite field, so just drag the bird image from the project panel into the field, and voila, we have graphics. That will, of course, show up in the fourth and final panel, the Scene View. Here we can see what's in our current scene, and if you want, you can use these tools to move stuff around, scale it, and so on. This section has an extra tab for Game View, which shows us what the game will look like from
I'm going to set it back a little bit. Okay. So what I need to do here is get a little bird sprite. So, there we go. Extract all. I don't know how to use sprites in Unity. So let's assume we go to the sprite sheet and we add the sprite into Unity. Just asset to this. And then how do we okay, so we're gonna continue watching the video.
All of this magic happens in the third panel, the inspector, which is for messing with game objects. So once we've selected our new empty game object, we can put a name in the top field. Let's call it bird. And we can see and change the game object's position, rotation, and scale under transform. We can now press add component, pick rendering, and pick sprite renderer. To make this work, we need to fill in the sprite field. So just drag the bird image from the project panel into the field, and voila, we have graphics. That will, of course, show up in the fourth and final panel, the scene view. Here we can see what's in our current scene, and if you want, you can use these tools to move stuff around, scale it, and so on. This section has an extra tab for game view, which shows us what the game will look like from the main camera when it's running. Also, from this drop-down, we can set a resolution or aspect ratio to get a better idea of what it will look like when played. So I'm going to choose 1920 by 1080. Oof. The bird takes up way too much space. We could scale it down, but let's actually just zoom out the camera. Like I said before, the camera itself is a game object in the hierarchy, and it has a camera component with stats we can mess with. By changing the size, we can zoom out. I'm also going to change the background color. Lovely. We can now press the play button up here to start the world's most boring game. Okay, let's make it a bit more exciting. A quick recap. Unity has 4 panels by default. Project holds all the stuff in our game. Hierarchy lists all the game objects in the current level. Inspector lets us see and change those game objects, and we can see the level in the scene view. And a game object is an invisible container that we can fill with components like a sprite renderer. In step 2, we're going to use more components to make the bird into a physics object that is affected by gravity. And then we're going to write some programming code to make the bird fly up when we press the spacebar. So let's add another component to our bird, a rigid body 2D. This turns our bird into a physics object with gravity. So when we hit play, the bird drops and falls off the screen. Cool. We'll also want this bird to be able to interact with other objects, so let's add a collider, a circle collider 2D. Back in scene view, we can see the collider as a green outline. It's a bit off-center for me, so I'll use the offset to move it. And a little game design trick. If we make the collider a bit smaller than the image, it will let the player get through the pipes even if they just touched the edge. It gives the game a bit of leniency and makes it feel more fair. The final thing to add right now, a script. This essentially lets us make our own custom component, but we'll have to write it ourselves using programming code. Choose New Script from the components list and call it Bird Script. Once it's loaded, double-click the script field to open it up. This will open the file in Visual Studio, which we installed earlier. So, welcome to programming. It's not too scary, promise, we'll take it slow. We're writing in C#, that's the programming language, and the only thing to worry about right now is these 2 chunks here, start and update. Start is for any code that will run as soon as the script is enabled, and it runs precisely once. Update runs constantly while the script is enabled, and it will fire off every line of code, every single frame, over and over and over again. So the main thing we're going to be doing with code right now is, well, if we go back to Unity, see these numbers and text fields in the components and how we can change them in the Unity editor? We're just going to write code to change these stats while the game is running. Just as a dumb example, and we'll delete this in a second. In start, we can type GameObject. That refers to this bit up here, and then a dot. You'll see a list appear, and many of the items refer to stuff back in the inspector, like isStatic, tag, layer, and name. So let's pick name, then write an equal sign, and in quotes, give our bird a name. Finally, we must always use a semicolon to mark the end of a command. And we must always save the script before we go back to Unity. Now, when we run the game, the name of the game object has been changed. Nice. Okay, delete that code, that was just for sillies, but it shows us how we can use code to talk to the game. We can write a command by choosing someone to talk to, in this case, the game object, and then a topic of conversation, its name, and then a command. Change it to Bob Birdington. We'll be doing this a lot. So what we actually want to do is, in the Rigid Body 2D's component, under Info, we'll see a grayed out field for velocity, and we want to write some code to add upward velocity to the bird to make it fly into the air. The problem is, initially, a script can only talk to the game object's top bit and the transform. Right now, this script is completely unaware of the other components, so we need to sort that out first. We need to make a special slot on this script for a Rigid Body 2D, so we can then talk to it and send it commands. This is called a reference. We're going to create the reference up here, between the class name and the start function. We're going to write public Rigid Body 2D myRigidBody. So we now have a slot to store a Rigid Body 2D, and we have a name that we can refer to make sure we're talking about this specific Rigid Body 2D. And because we made it public, it means we can access this slot from outside the script. So if we save and go back to Unity, we'll see that the script component now has a field for a Rigid Body 2D. We can drag the component into that slot and voila, we have established a line of communication between the script and the Rigid Body. Okay, back in Visual. Studio. In update, we can type myRigidBody, then dot. And now look at all the things we can talk about. Angular drag, gravity scale, mass, these are all properties on the component. The one we want is velocity. We want to set this to a new number, and so just like before with the name, we'll write an equals. Now what we're actually writing here is a vector, which is two numbers to represent a position in 2D space. And in this case, it's used to represent a direction for the bird to travel. We want the bird to go straight up, so 0, 1 would be a good one. I'm going to use vector2.up, which is a built-in shorthand for 0, 1. And to give it a bit more power, I'm going to multiply that vector by a number, say 10, which should send the bird flying up in the sky. Now, like I said before, any code in update will run over and over again every frame. So if we save the script and hit play in Unity, off goes our bird. Bye. That's not what we want. We want this to only happen when the player hits the space. Bye. If before, any code in update will run over and over.
Vector 2 up. Flying bird? Flying bird. Perfecto. Okay.
Again, every frame. So if we save the script and hit play in Unity, off goes our bird. Bye. That's not what we want. We want this to only happen when the player hits the spacebar. So it's time to use the most fundamental bit of programming code, the if statement. An if statement is like a gate. You can surround some code with a fence, and every frame that code will be completely ignored, unless the game meets some specific conditions that are written on the gate, in which case the gate is open and the code is read and executed. So we want to say, if the player hits the spacebar, then add upward velocity. To do this, we can write if, and then in brackets we can write the condition. This time we're not talking to a component, we're talking to Unity itself, specifically its input system. So we'll write input dot. Then we can pick get key down, and in brackets, keycode dot space. This asks Unity if the spacebar has been pressed on this frame, and then we'll finish with equals equals true. A quick note on equal signs. Frame, and then we'll finish with equals equals true.
Okay. So we would like to use an input, and that is calling this one. And then we will write true. And okay. Space bar equals we can pass the transform code into here, and then we can go like this, and it should be good. Let's see if my knowledge of programming is still up to date. Oops. Hey, cool. Works. Nice. Let's hit play.
A quick note on equal signs. We use 1 to make the thing on the left be the same as the thing on the right. And we use 2 if we're just checking if the thing on the left is the same as the thing on the right. Cool? Anyway, so this code says, if the spacebar has just been pressed, then, and then we'll use curly brackets, these are the fence in our analogy, and put the flap code in here. So now in update, every frame the game will go to the gate and be asked, hey, has the spacebar just been pressed? If yes, the code will fire and the bird will flap. If not, it will skip the code in the curly brackets and try again next frame. So, save the script and go back to Unity. We can now hit play and, ta-da, the bird goes up when we press space. We have now created a character and made it react to input. This is a video game. Hooray! However, it feels like trash. The flap isn't right and it doesn't feel like the original iPhone game. So we could change this number, save, open Unity, run the game, not quite right, stop, change the number, save, but that's slow and dumb. Let's do something smarter. First, we're going to make a variable. Let's go back to the top of the script and under our reference to the rigid body, let's make a public float called flap strength. A float is a floating point number, basically a number that can have a decimal place. And then back in our update code, we'll multiply the vector2.up by flap strength instead of 10. Now, back in Unity, you'll see that the script component has a new field, flap strength, and we can change that whenever we want to make the game feel different. We could even change it during the game, but note that anything you change while the game is running won't save when you press stop. This means you can play with values to your heart's content without worrying about screwing up your game. So, if we mess with the flap strength and also the gravity scale on the rigid body, we'll hopefully get to something that feels good. Changing numbers back and forth. Honey, that's game design. Recap time. We can use code to change the properties of a component while the game is running. A script cannot talk to the other components on the game object by default. You have to make a line of communication by storing a reference to that specific component. We create the reference in code and then fill it in Unity by dragging and dropping. Code in start runs once when the script comes into existence. Code in update runs continuously every single frame. But we can use if statements to skip some code unless a condition is met. And we can use public variables to change certain values in Unity's inspector even while the game is running. Okay, so the secret to Flappy Bird is that while it looks like a bird is flapping along through a world of pipes, it's actually not. The bird stays completely still, and it's the pipes that move across the screen. So in step 3, we're going to make pipes spawn into the world, move across the screen, and then delete themselves. We'll start by making the object we want to spawn.
Okay, so in that small tutorial, I will open up my trailer door so that the cats can eat my friggin' steak. But apart from that, oh look, it's the device that I just set up, and it's awesome. And I was just sitting there and just doing nothing. Okay. So we can save this project. We can leave it. Now that we know that public float is what we needed. Public string is what we need. We need a public string. We'll go back to this in a second. But for the time being, fuck's sakes, what? You need an active license. Agree. Give me a fucking license right fucking now. Why do you have to be such a burden in my life? Licenses, personal, activation, whatever. I don't care. Just work for me. Jeepers. Why is it fucking... Just move forward. Just move forward. Just move forward. Okay. You have the client. Open up the script. Okay, we go into the script. And then we are going to create a public string. And we're going to call it subscribe topics. I'm going to call it topic. And we're going to change it. We're just going to have that sit there. And then we scroll down here. And then here in protected virtual void subscribe topics, we will add we'll just save it. Is that how? Is that how it works? Console. So public string, we're going to call this topic. And basically, it's going to be used here. So topic. A namespace cannot directly contain members such as fields, methods, or statements. 41. Which one is this one? Right, so, what was it that I was just doing? We're gonna copy this and we're gonna delete it. I'm gonna go down here and we'll add it to the subscribe topics. And then we're gonna save it and then we're gonna close it. We're gonna open this back up. Tomato method. Okay. I want to put my legs up, but I can't fucking put my legs up. Pomodoro. We're gonna before we start that, we're just gonna look at this. We're gonna get through this, and then we're gonna go to notifications on my phone, set up Pomodoro, get back to work. Okay, so there was an issue. I don't know what the issue was. That was expected. Okay, so it was expected, but it wasn't expected. What? Okay, and what is this one? You know what? We're just gonna go like this. We're just gonna go like this. Yeah, you know what? We're just okay. So inside of subscribe topics, we're gonna make. What is this? What is we're gonna make? What is this? What are we gonna make? We're just gonna put in the freaking. I don't even care. This isn't even working. So why should I even care? ESP32 freaking LED freaking control. We're just gonna put. There. That's it. That's all. That's it. String error message. Okay, so yeah, that's it. That's it. I'm just gonna go like that. Is that how it works? Only assignment. Call increment, decrement, weight, and new object expressions can be used as a statement. So what am I doing? I am going to resume this tutorial, I think. But first, I'm gonna maybe check my notifications. Maybe just take 5 minutes. I would really like to get this to work, but it's really tough to even get it to work.
Hello guys and welcome.
I didn't want to spend today doing game development, but I will if I must.
QTT gets lost, then it will automatically reconnect and resubscribe the topics. Here we have the topics to which you want to subscribe. You can give a list of topics with wildcards and you can define the quality of service for the subscription. And here we have the status, if the connection should be opened at startup and if it is currently connected. And here we have a reconnect timer, in the case the reconnect is needed. Then we have here Unity events for connection up and connection down. You can add here a custom function to react on this events. And most important, if messages arrive, then you can add here a function where you can react on the incoming messages and do whatever you want to do. Of course you can publish data. The MQTT component has a publish function, which is very easy to use. Just give the topic in the payload. Payload can be a string or a bytes. Here we have a simple demo of it, where we have a cube and some sliders. The sliders are publishing data to the MQTT broker. On the left side we can set the position, on the right side the rotation. And the cube itself is connected to the arriving messages and will transform to reflect the values of the incoming messages. We see here now this application running 2 times. These are really 2 separate running programs, 2 separate instances of this program. But both are connected to the same central MQTT broker, which can be in the cloud or can run locally. When I now change the values of the topics, then you see both cubes are moving in both applications, because they are connected to the same central MQTT broker. Same can be done with the rotation. That
I will be back.
said, what would you do if you're canceled? He's like, you can't cancel me because I never needed your approval to start with. You know what I mean? So, anyway. Somebody said, we know Ty ain't broke. Hey, you know what I've learned? People always trying to, my most Googled thing about me over the years has been whatever, you know, different things, and people want to know who your girlfriend, Ty Lopez's girlfriend, age is always Googled, but net worth is always Googled. It's been interesting to watch what my net worth has been online. When Mr. Beast, he wanted to meet me, he flew up to New York to my house, and he was like, is your net worth really 5 million? Because it says 5 million, and I was like, always try to SEO your net worth to be low. I'm telling you, you don't want to have a high net worth online. It attracts gold diggers. I've had 2 people break into my house, fans go to, 2 get arrested, 1 went to prison. Like, more money, more problems, you know what I'm saying? So, for all of you, like, it sounds good to have, like, show your net worth.
A little bit of
$100
fresh
billion.
mood back into this.
Man. Keep your net, just have
We will figure
money
this out.
moving silence.
We'll get this
People will
figured
figure
out.
it out. They'll see you on a jet. They'll see you have a, 500-acre farm. They'll figure out you got a little bit of money. So that's all you need. That's how this game goes. Just pretend most humans are NPCs, non-player characters. Most people aren't real. That's the way I perceive life. I used to get affected, especially when I first started in like 2009, when you start building your business and your income. But the second you make your first 100 G's, especially
Cat
your
even
first
waiting
million,
for me to get back
I remember
before we
doing
started
my
eating
first
that.
million.
That's cute.
I don't know how long ago it was, but maybe
Okay.
15 years ago or something like that. Maybe longer, but let's say 15 years. You're gonna get a family member that's mad at you, won't talk to you anymore. So I had that. I had that happen. The second you make 10 mil,
Here's what we're gonna try
you're
and
gonna have
do.
a weird, if you're a guy, you're gonna date somebody
Like
weird
this.
that you figure out is trying to get at your money. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna get a lawsuit. First month I moved to Beverly Hills, big mansion. A maid sued, said she slipped on a banana peel. No joke, banana peel. She didn't even have an original. She had a weirdo. Like she was watching cartoons. She lost. It didn't even go. The case got dismissed, but I was like, oh shit. So keep your net worth online. 5 mil. 5 mil is good because look, if anybody won't be your friend or won't date you, if your net worth is 5 mil, then they're too much of a gold. 5 mil's enough. Just move to another country. Don't try to live in New York. You want to live in New York, you need to make 50 million. You want to live in Beverly Hills, you can make 100 million. But you want to live in Sao Paulo, Brazil, you need 400K in your bank account and you're in the 1%. You want to live in Dubai, you gotta have 20 mil. Okay. What do I think of Mr. Beast's water project? Sounds good for me. I mean, look, Mr. Beast is now big enough. He saw what I saw, He's gotten bigger than me on social media. He's a guy who went through my programs, my paid courses. A lot of people are like, oh, Ty, paid courses don't work. I'm like, Mr. Beast took my courses. He's worth a bill. There's only 2 people worth a bill under 30. And I'm not taking credit for anybody's success. I'm just saying, get everything that can help you, Okay. Someone says, Ty, you're ignoring the poor people trying to reach the wealthy. Not really. I'm on here live streaming for free. I'm out here giving money away. It's only $1,000, but it's something. I'm not like that. People who meet me are like, I thought you'd be way more stuck up. It's the most common thing when I meet people. I'm not saying I'm perfect or anything. I'm just saying I've heard 100 times in my life, especially with women. They're like, oh, I thought when I met you because I saw your social media. I'm like, yeah, that's because my cockiest videos are the one that go viral. That's the game. The algorithm skews perceptions of you because the algorithm shows the craziest video you ever did and pushes that out to 500 million people, even though that's only one slight aspect to your personality. Anyway, yeah, I'm on my farm now, man. That ain't AI. That's not one of those Zoom things. Here, I can show you. I'll throw a piece of watermelon out there just to show that this is not a AI backdrop. There you go. That's a farm. That's my barn down there. That barn is about a half a mile down there. horses in there right now. Pigs, corn. Okay, Felicia says your voice sounds good. My target market. As long as my target market, which is females, likes my hair and my voice, I'm good. Let men are not my target market. I'm impervious to anything that men say about my looks. There's a good rule of making money. You only got to be big to your target market. That's what I'm saying with AI. Here's what I would do if I was starting out, or even if I was making a couple $100,000 a year and I wanted to hit $1 million a year. I pick a target market: dentists, cosmetic surgeons, car dealerships, medium-sized restaurants, med spas, and I'd hire a pretty girl to DM the owner and say, we do AI automations for med spas. Just pick your lane, stay in your lane. Gyms are good ones. Do gyms, do jujitsu studios. Hey, I'll run your Twitter for you your Twitter and Instagram. I'll automate all the posts for $1,000 a month on autopilot. A lot of business owners will pay $1,000 a month. You can use tools like N8N. You can automate the creation of social media content now. You get 20 clients, and you could have 3 packages: $1,000 package, $25, and a $5,000. You'll get a couple people that take the VIP package. This is a quick path to $20,000 to $40,000 a month. I'm serious. I mean, I figured out how to do $20,000 to $40,000 a month in 2002. So I'm not talking out of no experience, man. I'm just telling you, this game, that's not even a lot of money anymore. Shit, what are you gonna buy with, I mean, it is a lot of money, but I'm saying it's not. When I used to tell people in like 2009, like, oh, you can make $500,000 a year, people were like, oh, that's so much money. I'm like, now with inflation, Joe Biden printed so much damn money. That 500K is nothing. So, Ty, I bought the course. Yeah, so I did a launch yesterday. Maybe I'll put the link up, and just while I'm live, I'll do a coupon code. If you want to work with me for the next 4 months, if you got the program yesterday, there's a lot of you. I read off all the names of everybody who got in my AI SMMA. You want to learn how to build apps or sell AI services. You're going to be live with me on Wednesdays and Thursdays now for the next 4 months. So you get the pre-recorded content, but you also get live with me on my company calls. That's the most valuable thing you're getting, because I'm there. You can work as I'm building my AI empire. You'd be right there with me. So I'll put the link up. I didn't really. It's Sunday, so I didn't really join to sell. I lived with the owner for 2.5 years. They don't really do any business.
Here's a client.
So
Client is
and
connected.
around here on my farm. When I first moved on this farm,
Okay.
an old dude, one of my neighbors, huge farmer. He owns many thousands of acres. He came over. He said, "Don't you do work on Sunday here?" That's all he said. He didn't say hello. He's like, "Don't you be doing farm work? Don't you be on a tractor on Sundays?" And I never have. Around here, you don't mess with these country boys. They'll get you back. They'll destroy your farm. Anyway, can't AI teach us how to build an AI empire? Exactly. That's the crazy thing. In the past, to make money, you had to figure out how to make money to get to the first step, and then the second step you had to reverse engineer it. Now you can just ask you. That's why I like you all making money with AI. This is the gold mine. I've been teaching people all the gold mines. I was doing Google ads in 01, gold mine. Then it went away. It wasn't a gold rush anymore. 2009, I started doing Facebook ads. Gold rush, man. I remember I spent $3K in 2009 on Facebook ads, and I made $21,000 back in a few hours. I went on a date with a girl, sushi date. You could make 18 G's in 3 hours. There was no targeting, no video ads, no competition. I was in the beta. 2015, I was one of the first people to do YouTube ads at Scam. Gold rush. 2016, I told people about the SMMA movement. I started it. I own it. All the people teaching SMMA, most of my students, that was a gold rush. 2017, I started posting my Bitcoin mastermind. I had the 2 dudes that founded Tether at my fucking mastermind. So just listen. People, oh, Ty, what do you know about crypto? I'm like, dude, my buddies are the co-founders of Tether. That's the most profitable crypto ever. That thing's spinning off billions of profit a quarter. Brock Pierce was teaching in my mastermind. I was in early. People were saying, oh, Ty's scamming people. He's telling people to buy Bitcoin at the top of the market. It was like 10,000. ETH was 1 75 when I started live streaming crypto. I wasn't the first, but I was early enough, and I was telling people about Ecom in 2018. So I was telling people about Airbnb, HSMC. I launched in 2018. How to make money with Airbnb, home services manager company. Brian Page, I was just talking to, dude did like 50 million with Airbnb. So I'm telling you right now, fast forward to 2025, you have to catch these trends, or you have to wait 5 more years for a big. I don't know what's going to be the big trend. Somebody said, "Source, trust me, bro." No, you just are too young to remember me. You just too little grasshopper. Nobody doubts that I was teaching SMMA, and say all the people you follow are my students. 2015, 20. I remember I just posted a video. Jake Paul coming to my house. I had an Aventador Lamborghini. I turned it on. He was like, "One day I'll have a Lamborghini like that." Hey, I've never been in a Lamborghini. That was like 2014. No, that was 2015. So, anyway, I'm telling you, go all in on AI today, this week. Mark Cuban says if he was starting over now, he'd spend 6 hours to 12 hours a day studying AI. Go and follow the top AI. In my program, we've got a lesson on all the accounts you should follow. There's a lot of people.
This package gives you an easy way to access it.
I'll give you the top 20 ones. You should go follow them on Twitter and Instagram. Like, there's so much, and YouTube. But you need my system is a step-by-step. It's 4 months. It's my AI SMMA. How to build apps and how to build AI automations to sell. So, yeah. Tim Saber says, "Ty, we all learned the priceless stuff from Ty's SMMA course and Joe Soto." Yeah, he was teaching inside. Yeah, Russell Brunson, Rudy Maurer, Sam Oven, all these dudes, Mr. Beat, they were all went through my Iman Ghazi. So this stuff works, man. This stuff's work. You gotta lower your cynicism. Lower thy cynicism. Where's the link? Okay, people are asking. So go to I'll pin it. Go to TyLopez.com/run. Like, I want you to run with this. That's why I use it. TyLopez.com/run. And right now, use this coupon code. The coupon code is the word live. Since we're live streaming, just use, and while I'm live, I'll set it that it's 50% off. Coupon code, I'll pin this here. And I'll post it to YouTube too. TyLopez.com/run. I want you running with this stuff. You don't have time, ladies and gentlemen, to take a long time. You got to go quick. TyLopez.com/run. That'll take you there to the right page. 4-month program, AI SMMA. How to build apps and automations that you can sell. Coupon code while I'm live. Coupon code is the word live. Since I'm live, that's the easiest to remember, I figure. So go run there. Boom. Start the poll. Okay. Am I in West Virginia? No, I'm not. Okay. What's some questions? How to get investors to invest in you without joining paid communities? I mean, the best way to get your first investor is like a friend of a friend. I used to do parties. Parties are good, man. I used to do some parties at my place in Hollywood Hills. Every Sunday, I'd open it up in the afternoon. You don't have to spend that much money. I tell people, bring a new friend. Dude, by the end, I had that's when I got my first billionaire mentor. A dude named Walter. This big real estate guy. Built all these skyscrapers in Houston and in Portland, Oregon. So, you can network your way up. It's better to join paid groups because paid groups, it's like a golf. Why do you think rich people join country clubs? Because they know everybody in the country club's serious and has money because they drop 50 grand to be in the there's a country club in Vegas that's 500,000 and you have to own a house, and the minimum house is $4 million there. But when you play golf, you're playing golf with the CEO of Coca-Cola and all that stuff. So it's easy to, network. All right. Talk to your sales rep. He's a great guy. Good. I have invention ideas. How do you man, if you have an invention, just invent AI apps right now. You know how many apps people are? I just had the guy who started Cluely. Roy from Cluely was on my podcast 3 months ago. Now it's 4 months he started Cluely, and it's valued at $120 million. He's 21 years old. He got kicked out of college. He got expelled for using AI. They said he was cheating. So he started an AI cheating app. It's not really cheating, but it's catchy to say that. You can Google it. Cluely. Valued at 120 million. He's 21. He probably, my guess is he owns 80% of it. So he's probably worth 90 mil. Someone said that hairpiece is atrocious. Pull my, yeah, I don't have a hairpiece, but I always tell people, dudes, if you walk around and you're not on steroids and people accuse you of being on steroids, that's a good sign. There's no greater compliment than some dude being like, fuck you, you're just on steroids. That means you got muscles. If you know you're not on steroids, good. And no greater thing for a man than people being like, you're wearing a wig. That hair, you couldn't have hair like that. That's not possible. I'll take it. As long as my target market compliments me. Women like longer hair. Okay. Somebody say tie is not a compliment. To me it is. You may not be of an intellectual capacity to fathom what I'm talking about, but there's a lot of smart people. They know what I'm saying. A woman once told me there's two things that men have low self-esteem about. Losing their hair and their dick. Those are the two things that men have lowest self-esteem. That's from a woman's perspective. Dudes start losing their hair at 28, they go nuts. They go nuts. Okay. You're debating coming to Virginia. Come on, man. I got my mastermind here. I'm on my farm right
Okay, so
now.
we have a screen underneath the
Touch the
canvas. We
button.
need
All right.
something
We
called
got more
buttons.
cynical people.
We're gonna delete this,
Hey, this is my farm, man.
and we're gonna
That would be
add
a strange
something
thing
called
to
buttons.
flex on. I've had mansions. People are like,
I
"Oh, I
believe.
just bought this mansion last week," or "Ty's got an Airbnb." Do you know who Owen Benjamin is? Yeah, he's a comedian. I used to go watch him at the Improv before he was well known. Ty, when does AI start producing wonderful pictures of us holding hands? Are you a woman? Hopefully. All right. If you want to come to my mastermind, I'm doing a mastermind this week on my farm. Just go to tylopez.com. There's a link right in the middle. But everyone else, if you want to work with me in the next, let me read off the names of some people getting in. A lot of people got in the last 24 hours. I'll read off some of the names here. Okay. Do I visit Canada at all? Yeah. Okay. Nabil, welcome to the group. In Paris, Ile-de-France. Awesome, man. Here, let me read off. I'll just read off people getting in. tylopez.com/run. All right, here we go.
Okay, so we have LED control topic.
Yes.
Good.
So Nabil, I just read
That's
off
all
in
we really
Paris.
need.
That's somebody
Is
something
just the on and
else.
off.
Hold on, because I have, this is, let me put a filter on it. Anthony Hermes, welcome to the group. He got in the VIP level. Andrew Howard, where are you? Greenbrier, Tennessee.
Select button.
Christiana, oh, that must be, you have an Icelandic last name.
Scene.
Christiana Thorgesdottir.
We're gonna create an on button and an off button.
Okay. Wilder
button.
Perez, welcome to the group. In Thermal, California. Thermal. Giola
button.
in Hungary, welcome to the group. Wessam Mohammed in Jeddah, Makkah, Saudi Arabia, welcome to the group. I got people in 190 countries. It's pretty cool in my programs. Okay. Show us the garage. There's no garage on my farm. I was thinking of getting a
Okay, so
Lamborghini
what is
tractor.
this do?
That one
How do
TV
we
show, we got a Lamborghini
how do we make
tractor.
it
I'm like, you know what, that
work?
would be on brand for me. I'm on my farm, but I got John Deere tractors are better. So I don't know about that. Lamborghini, you know the story of Lamborghini? The founder of Lamborghini was an engineer of tractors, but he bought a Ferrari because he got rich, and he had an idea on how to improve the Ferrari, and he lived in Italy, and he went to the founder of Ferrari. What was his name? Enzo Ferrari or whatever. He went to the founder and he knocked on his door and he said, "Hey, I've got one of your Ferraris, and I have an idea to improve the clutch." And the guy got mad and said,
Hey guys, welcome to another Unity.
"Just stick to making tractors. I'll make the luxury cars." And he slammed the door on his face. And the guy got so mad, he said, "I'm gonna make my own fucking company." And that's the true story of how Lamborghini. So be careful who you talk shit to, because you're gonna look stupid. I've had both. I've had multiple Ferraris and multiple Lambos. I like Lamborghini a lot better. For those of you who like cars. Okay. I like that people are arguing if it's AI. It's very funny, like, what humans are obsessed with. Ty, I'm Iranian and I follow you. Can you give me a prize? Okay, let's do another prize. Okay, let's do the 300. We did a 100, 200, so now we're going to do 300.
Tutorial today, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a button or
And have your Bitcoin wallet ready. Don't make it hard on me. So you got to have a Bitcoin wallet that you can DM me on Instagram or on Twitter.
a button which you'll be able to interact with like so, and you'll be able to write a simple bit of code to control what the button does when you unclick it, and whether that be move to another level or something very similar. So to get started, all you need is a canvas. You can right click in the hierarchy, choose UI and create a canvas. If you've already got a canvas, I'm just going to get rid of my button. I've already got some text at the top which is just, and a little background. So you can right click your canvas, click UI and choose button with Text Mesh Pro. And Text Mesh Pro is a little bit better because it's got more functionality for the text that you've got. So we've got a button here. We can potentially just scale up our button
Nikola Tesla was a great man, but let's not say he wasn't doing AI in the 1800s.
and create a canvas. If you've already got
All right, who's the father of AI for 300 bucks?
a canvas, I'm just going to get rid of my button. I've already got some text at the top which is just
For one name, I'll give you a hint. It was in the 1950s. All right, I'm gonna pin some
and a little background. And create a canvas. If you've already got a canvas, I'm just going to get rid of my button. I've already got some text at the top which is just, and a little background. So you can right click your canvas, click UI and choose button with
Killa Tofu. I'm gonna DM you on Twitter or X. The answer, you answered correctly. Let me just find you real quick. DM me on Twitter. You got 1 minute. You got like a minute. Ah, shit! Did this disappear? Killa Tofu. What a name. Oh, it's Douglas Fooney. Okay. Oh, you already follow me. So I'm following you back now on Twitter. DM me. I'm just sending you Bitcoin wallet is what I need. 300 bucks. I'll send it right transparently while everybody's watching. Then I got the $400 giveaway, and then I'm gonna get off here. Usually I don't go live on Sundays, but it's such a nice view. I was like, yo, let me go live from this view. And the answer was, by the way, which he correctly put in, it was John McCarthy. The 1950s, he came up with this concept of artificial intelligence. Now, obviously, what the hell? Obviously, in 1950s, they didn't have exactly the same, but Ty is AI SMMA lifetime access. So it's yes to that program, but sometimes I roll in a couple of years, we might have a whole new program. So you'll get that, like people who bought my SMMA in 2016, they still have access to 2016 SMMA, but they don't have
Text Mesh Pro. And Text Mesh Pro is a little bit better because it's got more functionality for the text that you've got. So we've got a button here. We can potentially just scale up our button like I had it before. You can snap it to the center if you want, or wherever your button may go. You can drop down the
A lot of our physics that we base all our technology on is the Newtonian physics. So that's the answer. If you ask, it's a pretty okay. You give me your wallet, boom. I'm gonna send it right in front of everybody. $300. He just sent me his Bitcoin wallet there. I will pull it up. I'm sending it to you. Here we go. Send Bitcoin. Paste. Allow paste. Oh, it says an invalid address. I don't think that's a real address, my friend. It looks too long. Make sure it's Bitcoin. Yeah, it says invalid address. BTC. Bitcoin. don't do Bitcoin anymore. XRP. I have XRP. I got XRP. I got Bitcoin. This is my whiteboard. This is my farm. It's pretty, right? Pretty time of the year. Okay. Somebody said I should pay him with knowledge. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm launching a knowledge app. An AI knowledge app. It's gonna be badass. Instead of scrolling all day, every time you want to scroll TikTok, switch over to my app and scroll. It's gonna have all the things you need. Smart people do better in life. Smart people make more money. They get better mating partners. Their kids thrive. Their grandchildren thrive. Most of life is a game of staying sharp.
Actual button on the left hand side in the hierarchy and select the TextMesh Pro text, and then we can call this whatever we want. So in my example it was called new game. We
Any human ever. So, when do I think the AI bubble will burst? Well, it's not gonna burst. It's just gonna be valuations will be lower. So you need to try to make money this year in AI. Like that's why I'm saying go to television.com/run.
All right.